So I'm recording this a bit before I'm actually going to be recording the Tedious Tales episode. I just want to say you guys didn't have to blow up that tweet, but sincerely, wow, I knew people loved Tedious Tales and people loved me going with lore. I wasn't expecting that.
Go down, let's go down, let's go down. Don't you wanna come down? Count to 20, and go and right or wrong, and feed the pelicans.
So, what did you think about the intro? I loved it, honestly. I love myself. I did great. I cooked. Um uh Today we are delving into Tedious Tales of Sodor. If you haven't seen it, watch it right now. I'm linking the playlist down below. Please watch. Support BUSCUITCAT. This series, I love it. It's great. I quote it. Me and my friends have like most of the stuff on our soundboards. Please watch. No, but today we're gonna be talking about it. Um Unlike TSI lore, I actually have a lot to work with, and it's more so it's nicely served to me on a silver platter with a four-course meal of information and world building, unlike the minuscule breadcrumbs that I had with like one loaf of bread. I'm not salty. Let's begin. So, like I mentioned, Tedious Tales, the information is more laid out in the episodes clearly for us. So, like I said, down below, you can watch it. You can see all the information. Really, in my notes, I just had like things that I thought were just like the important. I'm not gonna go through that because, like I said, it's laid out for us. So I will like dive in to the lore. Or what I think is lore. And I made a timeline. I made a timeline too. And I believe I have found the date in which Tedious Tales happens. It hasn't been laid out for us, but I think I figured it out. But starting with information that we know, we have been told by the narrator in the teaser that this universe is what we're stuck with. Universe? What do they mean by that? Well, in April, there was a April Fool's video showcasing like a multiverse what if idea that the narrator was telling to Thomas. Um, I don't know if this is entirely canon because I know around that time too, on like the Thomas Twitter, everyone was doing like Thomas multiverses, and I think Biscuit was just taking some inspiration from that. But teaser, just the narrator just going, you know, we're stuck with this universe. Like, I feel like it has something. Maybe. Information that we know is how different the timeline is. It's more, the timeline in a short is more so like the adventure begins with how, when everyone kind of comes of it, as well as like more background engines. The shorts, speaking of timeline, the shorts come before the series. So, like a year or two before episode 1 happens, except for the fourth short that takes place directly right before the first episode. I'll talk about that one later. First off, on our chopping block, we have the narrator. At first, the narrator was a little confusing to me until the special radio where it clicked. With the narrator, in canon, there are a few characters that can talk with them. And it's only four characters so far from what has been shown. So we have James, I'm putting down as a technicality because of the April Fool's video where he is seen talking with the narrator, as well as Thomas. Like I said, I don't really know if that is entirely canon, so James is a maybe. Henry definitely has talked with the narrator in the 75th special, and in the second short, Henry is seen talking with the narrator and knows them. Obviously, Thomas, our main man, we can talk with the narrator taking up Henry's mantle with talking to the narrator. I still don't know how that kind of happens, like the bestowing of hearing the narrator. Oh, if I if more episodes come and explains it, I'll dive into that more. Thomas casually, is, and I feel like behind the scenes, kind of, Thomas and the narrator kind of became friends because they were like kind of pretty buddy buddy in the Christmas episode, but then same episode they have their fallout, which honestly I want to say very well written. I enjoyed that. That was very well done. What I find a bit unusual, kind of going back, is despite Henry being able to hear the narrator before, he doesn't really remember. And the narrator, no one can really notice his powers with what's happening, kind of like seen in episode 2 when he makes like the tree fall, or some of the conundrums happening to Thomas. And despite being behind him, Annie and Clarabelle are like, well, you're going mental, you're just talking to yourself, Thomas, like, and they didn't realize or notice, like, a tree falling down, magically going back. Like, this kind of has made me kind of think that the narrator, I think, is kind of close into power with the narrator from the Stanley Parable. I'm not saying that they're the same person, like they kind of have like the same kind of power structure. They can control things, they can make things appear by snapping or narrating, but they can have things happen outside of their will, which upsets them, or like is hard for them to like gain back control. Speaking of control, there is one character that is seen more powerful than the narrator and has actually kind of controlled him. Lady. Lady has talking with him, as seen in like the radio special, and I'll talk about her more. I'll talk about her later. I want to kind of also add that the narrator mentions Thomas getting their suit ruined by steam, them being in a physical studio, and then them actually being shown. Throughout the series, I kind of had the a theory slash idea that BUSCUITCAT was the narrator, because one, creator of the show, they have full control over what the characters do. Two, they are the narrator, like they're the voice of the narrator. In the Christmas episode, the narrator mentions like, oh yeah, I fixed up the map because that was such a danger hazard. And who makes the iOS? BUSCUITCAT, I believe it was. And then also, like, in the Christmas episode, BUSCUITCAT was shown as the narrator in the back. But I don't know if it was just meant to lead to like the after party stream theory of like the narrator being BUSCUITCAT. It explains also how the narrator knows like what's to come, kind of the alternate universes with what happens. Some of the more like random moments, kind of where where they are talking about like, how's the family, I'm very enriched, or like, I'll probably put like a few lines that I thought were like, this segment, I'm buckle up, kids. We're going into tragedy. So, despite the series being funny, silly, goofy, the lore isn't. And not gonna lie, I cried myself to sleep the day, like, this tweet, which should not have blown up, that night that I posted it, I cried myself to sleep. Like, I was literally sobbing myself to sleep because of connecting some of these dots, which are very tragical. Start with Thomas. It's known that Thomas has a brother, Jack. It's the name that the narrator mentioned in episode 2 when he was mentioning family, and I'm gonna stick with their name being Jack. If you don't know, Jack is 106. And in the episode, Thomas mentions, like, he doesn't have family, which is true considering 106, aka Jack, is dead to him when Jack went to an island of Sodor. After Jack left Thomas, Thomas then became recluse and closed off. James and Edward, I theorized, know who Jack was and recognized Thomas being Jack's sibling. And as seen in the fourth short, James wanted to tell Thomas about Jack, but Edward, not wanting Thomas to like close up again and becoming recluse, didn't want to tell him. And we can see like Edward is distraught and thinking when in the fourth short, after James is like, you either tell him or I'm gonna tell him. You have until like the end of tomorrow. And that tomorrow was James's crash. And I theorize either Edward sent the trucks, or like told the trucks to, kind of not kill him, but like rough him up a little bit so that he'd be gone and wouldn't be able to tell Thomas. That, or it's just, we've seen these trucks in this series, they're great, we love them, but god damn, are they, especially, oh my god, what's this truck just being like, I love causing mischief. It's either the trucks or Edward, one of the two. But in the end, though, as confirmed by BUSCUITCAT and another producer of the series, after the accident, James got brain damage and he can't remember anything before the crash. He can't remember anything before the crash. Before the crash, the night before, he was talking with Edward about telling Thomas the secret of Jack, probably. And this entire time, this entire series, despite Edward being so close to Thomas, has been keeping all of this hidden throughout the entire damn Speaking of 106, them and Marklin have a past. So with my suspicion I had watching the shorts, when 106 mentioned going to an island, I thought it was the island Sodor. Proven correctly, and there he met Marklin, and where those two became very close on the Marin branch. And we don't know exactly their full story, but I think we know how it ends. So, as seen in the first short, 106 dies driving off of a viaduct, pulling an evening passenger train, only to be found and kind of salvaged by Marklin. Understandably, I feel Marklin would have been scarred by this, and his reaction, seeing 107, aka Thomas, is very justified, because he's just like, no, you can't be here. Like, that's literally him seeing his like dead comrade, his dead friend. And I feel like it also explains kind of his, I put down resentment at that, because I feel like who started the entire argument about kind of like, obviously the bigger engines and the smaller engines, they all were like kind of quarreling, but Marklin was the one to be like, hey, so like James started the fire. And it's like, one, he didn't, but like you're fanning fire to the flame. And which and I don't care what Edward said, but like, Edward's like, well, Marklin was helping us. No, he wasn't. I theorized that Marklin has a vendetta and it was trying to pull all the engines apart, because he said that Thomas was the root in most of the troubles, and because he probably has a vendetta against Thomas, because he hates him, because he is the spitting image of his friend who died, and he's probably upset and sad about it, and he probably I don't know if 106 talked about Thomas, but there has to be something. I know there's something. That or I'm overthinking. As I said before, and as I said in TSI, it always has to come back to this bitch. I don't want to talk about her. Let's talk about the best non-binary rep. Perky! Percy's a little odd thing. With their debut, it had me asking a few questions with, why are they so strong? How did they not just get dense after, like, this crash? How did, like, the workmen you can hear kind of have, like, a little commotion when they wake up, which, obviously being workmen building engines, I feel they really would just be used to, like, oh, hey, face has grown. And it's just all these questions I had could possibly be answered because of Lady. As seen, Lady helped guide Percy's engine into consciousness through the magic railroad before they, like, woke up. I feel Lady has something to do with how powerful Percy is. I kind of theorize that Lady, when watching, I had the theory that Lady was the person who called in the end of episode 5. But also, with what struck me was the lady in episode 5 and the lady in radio, same person. What struck me was when she goes, "It's not a scam. You need." Her voice distorts, and her voice also distorts when she says, "Enough of these games." And when her voice distorts primarily when she has like anger in her voice. And until we actually see Lady talking, like the engine, suspicions. That lady on the phone, though, that is her. And my train's theory can, and let's put that little staple on it and just, like my theories. I don't have too much upon Lady. I have a feeling, I have the sneaking suspicion she will return. In some way to either help explain something with Jack, aka 106, or something to do with Percy. She's a bit of a mystery. This is the one thing that I have breadcrumbs with. The timeline. So out of everything with Tedious Tales of Sodor, this is like one of the easier things that I can piece together. Because like I said, I have everything on a silver platter, but it's just, I'm having to connect some puzzle pieces here and there, and it's like what to pair, like what wine to pair with my cheese on this platter. So it's the little problems, but the timeline I have solved. I fully believe I have. It is mentioned in many episodes that when in between episodes it's off screen, so time passes throughout that, and it's also shown like time passes in the episodes too. So I believe that the events of Tedious Tales of Sodor, minusing the shorts, happens in the span of a year. Yeah, in the span of a year. When the shorts take place, I wanna say that the year is 1924. So when the shorts happen, it's 1924. It's mentioned that 106's paint job is out of whack because of the Southern Railway. That happened in 1923. So if he is out of date, it'd be 1924. Speaking of the shorts, the shorts have a mini timeline. And those shorts would be going 3, 1, 2, and 4. For the timeline too, it goes 106 leaving Thomas on the mainland, and then going into 106 and Marklin becoming friends for like a couple of months before the crash, and then after like a week, Thomas arrives, and then like later in June, James has this crash, which then leads to the first episodes happening in the summertime. And then leading up into August to when Percy arrives. Then it goes into like the fall time where Percy was like learning the railway, everyone gets to know each other, everyone making everything up, and then ending in December, leading into 1926 or 1925. Kind of, like I said, I believe it is that year, and this is the timeline. any feedback from Biscuit Cat Productions or the crew, please. I love getting feedback. I will definitely make more episodes on this or on the series when more lore and episodes come out to plot together. Honestly, like, just watch Tedious Tales of Sodor. It's so much fun. I've spoiled most of like this or most of like the lore and stuff, but like I said, I didn't want to go into the info because like it's laid out for us. And it's better to watch that info than just listen to me ramble for like 40 minutes like the last one. Links below for Biscuit Cat, the series, my socials, Biscuit socials, and some of the team's socials. And everywhere else, and I will see you guys in the next video. And just remember, please stay hydrated.